Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica and I'm your host, and you can follow me on Twitter at @itchchasinho. So on today's stream, we're going to be doing Arsenal player ratings for the season, wrap up this season, and throw it away because it deserves to go in the bin. We'll talk about the players. Some we'll talk about a little bit longer than others. I'm sure we'll have a little bit of debate. I don't think we'll all agree on everything. And I implore you to let us know what you think in the chat box. Let us know if you agree with us, what ratings you would give the players, and all that good stuff. We'll also talk about Arteta. We'll give him a rating, as well as Adu and VAR/the refs. Can't wait to see what that rating is going to look like. But before we actually get started, I just want to talk about some breaking news that has just kind of come out in the last couple of hours, and then something that came out yesterday. So we will talk about Edmund Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen. We're allegedly interested and looking at him for center back position. So we'll talk about that, as well as Adu potentially getting sacked. But before we do that, I'm going to bring in my panel. I have Sulz and Harry here. How you guys doing?
What's happening?
All good, all good.
Awesome. So not sure if you guys heard the news, but we'll talk about it anyway. Edmund Tapsoba from Bayer Leverkusen is being linked with a move to Arsenal. Allegedly, we are ahead in the race, or we are the most interested and we're the most likely destination for him. He's 22 years old, 6'4", center back. I think he played against us for Vitoria when we played in the Europa League, and he did well, got a move. And right now he's being his transfer, I guess, whatever is like 44 million, which is quite a lot for a center back. And he's
44 million, and we're linked to him.
Yeah. And he's from Burkina Faso, so he's also African, which has been one of the conversations that has been going around on Twitter the last couple of days is how many African players are we going to have, because AFCON is coming around, and that would mean that half of our team would be gone, something to consider. But I think the bigger question is, do we actually need to address this position in this particular window when midfield seems to be a big issue, as well as maybe some of the attacking positions? So, Souls, I know we kind of talked backstage about maybe you haven't watched a lot of this player. I haven't watched him a lot either. I know of him, but it's not like I watch Leverkusen every week. But what is your overall feeling about us being linked to a center back that's young, and what that might do to Saliba in the future as well?
I think it's the wrong, not profile, because I think even from the little I've read about him and know about him, it is very little I'm going off. He does seem to be that sort of ball-playing centre-back, which is what we're looking to do. My only concern is we've got Gabriel, we've got Saliba, who we want to be the future of the club, and then obviously whoever else comes through the youth academy. The problem that we have is we've got no leaders at the back. I know Kieran Tierney, but how fit can he really be? I know he can play a run of 8 games, but then it's another injury for him. And that's my only concern, is going into a season knowing that he's got this injury. The thing is, he could be injury-free next season. I'm not saying that, there's no possibility of him, not reoccur or being actually injury-free next season. But it's if he can do that. And that's the problem. He hasn't proven that yet. And that's the only concern, that he's the only leader we have in that back line with David Luiz leaving. And it's a case of how much are we really going to give Pablo Maria a chance as well, because he's probably the only other one who could step up. But I've not seen enough leadership in him. He has been good, and even especially with Holding, he's controlled Holding and contained him a little bit to not be as rash when they play. Obviously, we've never seen him with Gabriel really, other than that back three that we played. So I don't know how them two could be, and obviously 2 left-footed centre-backs are just never going to play together. That we just have to accept the reality of. For me, I would have preferred us going for someone a bit more experienced. I haven't really looked at who we could get. But we need someone to replace David Luiz more than we need to, because it seems like we're going for this sort of for the future approach with everything, even with the likes of Basuma coming in, very young. But I like the Partey signing because that made sense. 27-year-old established Champions League player who is constantly in the top 4, big part of Simeone's team, good defensive awareness. It made sense. But this, for me, just doesn't fit the profile in a sense of, I don't know how much of a leadership he has. He's 22 years old. He's got a lot of development to do. Is it the right time to buy someone like him when we've got... Because my question is, are we now not going to play Saliba? Because I've seen Saliba in League On and I've thought, wow, he's basically a young David Luiz who could be better than him. He's got a very good ball-playing attributes. He's got a very good long pass on him. He can pick them out. And even when you think about how, like, I've seen a few games in Leon that played that high line, and he actually tackles quite high up, which is what we sometimes need. So I don't know. I'm not excited. If it happens and we pay 44 million, they better be bringing these players home. They better be bringing Basuma in, the likes of Buendia or Awa or Odegaard or Matthews Pereira. They better be bringing a striker in, because if they're wasting money on a position we don't need, I'm sure they've got another 400 million pounds just sat there spending where we need it. So this is the thing. We recruit wrong every single time. This saying about, if we were spending 44 million, I want the whole team ready next season then.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the this is not a priority. That it seems like Arteta's like obsessed with center backs. Like something about the center backs, we continuously bring them in, and it's a lot, you know. But Harry, what do you think about Arteta's obsession with center backs and that sort of thing?
Maybe he got it from Guardiola, because he's pretty obsessed with defenders as well, right? Man City have a lot of defenders, a lot of centre backs. Ake, Laporte, Stones, Diaz, Garcia. I don't know. I don't think we can underestimate the importance of a player like David Luiz, not only for his experience, but also his ball playing abilities. I know it's not overlooked because we always talk about it, but I think you've seen a clear difference in when Rob Holding plays at the back, you know, to when a David Luiz plays at the back. I don't think it's on our list of priorities. We spoke about Callum Chambers yesterday, kind of taking that right back position, and now right back seems almost a priority, but a bit more less of a priority at the moment than it does a centre midfielder, than it does a number 10, than it does maybe a proven goal scorer. So, I mean, look, you know, if we sign this chap, to be honest, I haven't looked at Twitter at all today, so it's almost like breaking news. If we sign him, you know, then cool. But in all honesty, I'm not too sad about our centre-back options. I don't love them, but I don't hate them. And when we talk about leaders and stuff, I think Rob Holding, you know, is actually the only natural leader in that back line. Maybe not in ability, maybe not in like ball playing abilities, but in terms of vocal leadership, 100% for me, he's a natural leader. I think when you go to Emirates, you see that he's incredibly vocal. He's always encouraging and talking to the players next to him, which is why I think he features quite heavily. So yeah, if we get a new centre back, great. But I'm happy with Saliba coming in, and, you know, hopefully taking over from David Luiz, and hopefully performing a good partnership with Gabriel.
I mean, the fact that the center backs that we're looking at or supposedly linked with are all like 23, 22 years old, to me, just doesn't make sense. You know, if Saliba's actually going to come in, Yo-Yo makes a good point that Saliba may not want to remain at the club.
No, he's actually come out and said he's fine coming back to the club, and the club have made their intentions clear that he's coming back and featuring in this season. They just needed to loan him out, but due to personal reasons.
How many times have we seen a player come out and say something like that, and then them do a U-turn and go right back out the other side? Like, for me, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some fractured relationship there, but it would be only okay for me for something like this to happen if Saliba were to leave. That's essentially the only reason why I'd bring in a Tapsoba or somebody of his age profile, because I do agree with Sulz. Like, we need somebody older, like more experience, like somebody that can bring some of that leadership in. And for me, for us to have like the third best defense in the league with the players that we have, Marie, Gabriel, and that's like another thing that kind of irritates me just a little bit, is that nobody wants to recognize that we have a really good defense, because the defenders that are back there are not ones that people rate. Does that make sense? They don't have names. They're not special. They're not shiny. Our defense is good, you guys. Accept it. Inject it.
Yeah,
accept that. Our defense is good.
Yeah, sometimes I change my opinion of our defenders quite a lot, because, you know, we're so up and down this season. So one week I absolutely adore Rob Holding and I see everything in him that I love in a defender. And the next week I'm like, oh my God, sometimes you look a little bit average on the ball, and, you know, it hinders us. But you're right, defensively, you know, we haven't struggled this season. It's maybe not as exciting as it once was, but we talk about new players all the time. And if we were to sign a 22-year-old from the Premier League for 44 million, or from the Championship, we'd probably turn our nose up at it, because it's a foreign player from abroad. You go, oh yeah, this is exciting. And the same as Rob Holding. If he was Italian and we signed him from a Serie B club and he came over, we'd all be probably excited about him. So I think it's hard, because at the minute there's so many areas where we can improve, but I feel like there's just more urgent areas.
I think you're talking about the wrong player for me. I don't think Rob Holding's as good as you're saying he is. He's let the two smallest players in the Premier League score a header. No. He could have been more aggressive with them.
Listen, Michael Owen scored headers against Tony Adams and Sol Campbell. It's not about height; it's about timing, and they're good crosses and good timing. I heard this.
Yeah, but Holding quite a lot. Been wank. Absolutely terrible.
I think for those 2 goals, yeah, he was at fault, but I don't think you can pick on him that much this season. I think isolating those 2 incidents and referencing Sterling's size and whatnot is unfair.
Yeah, but he's spun by loads of players this season.
I know, but Aguero scores headers all of the time. Aguero's 5 foot nothing. Michael Owen done it against Tony Adams, Sol Campbell, and they're the best defenders we've ever seen. Sometimes it's just about timing of the jump and the cross. I think Rob Holding is solid. That's why I'm not saying it's class, but I think he's solid, and I think he's got good leadership qualities.
I just don't think he's good enough.
Save this part for the ratings when we get to Rob Holding. But my only point with that was just to say that I don't think defense is necessarily a priority, because right now I think we have probably like the 6th best defense, maybe a little bit higher than that. But the issue for me is attack. Like, to me, that's more the issue, the attack in the midfield. And if we can improve that and continue not to give up goals, then I'm kind of fine with what we have back there, even though I know that it's not good enough for us to get into the top 4. Does that make sense? Like, I understand Holding's not he's not going to get us into top 4, but can he keep us kind of where we are and we can improve our attack? I mean, I think the points that we are like 6 points away from the top 4 is more about us not being able to score enough goals than us giving up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that comes down to he doesn't trust the defense enough, so he's trying to take these more defensive approaches. If he to be honest, right, if you trust your defense, you're gonna go for the game. That's just how it's worked. Klopp trusts Van Dijk on his own at the back. Ruben Diaz is playing as a sole centre back in some of the games. If you look at their positioning, even whoever's next to him, whether it's Stones, Laporte, Garcia or Nathan Ake, they're the ones bombing forward, playing in a more midfield role, and he's the deepest centre back. So once we can get an established 4 that we trust, he'll let them loose. So I do think there's an element of we do need to improve that defense, but it's at the moment it may not be as much of a priority, because I feel like Leno puts that defense under a lot of pressure, and I feel like Xhaka does that as well, because he's not got the mobility required to play the way Arteta.
Don't get started on Xhaka just yet.
No, I'm just making the point.
Bulgarian Guna makes a really good comment as well, just about there being less games next season. Potentially it's going to be a 50-game season as opposed to a 60-odd game season. So, signing all of these centre halves, there just won't be as many minutes for those players. There's not those Europa League games where you can literally rotate a full 11 this year. So I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't know if signing another centre back without selling one is a good thing. But hey, we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, let's move on to the second piece of news here. So it's kind of, you got to spit in facts there, as usual, Sulz. So from Albert. But Edu, there was rumors coming out yesterday that he could potentially get sacked. Very loose rumors about something that he did back in Brazil. We heard that there was maybe the way that they do business in Brazil is not necessarily the way that we like to see things done in other countries, in other parts of the world. Shady business dealings that have come back to maybe bite him in the butt. And that might be enough of a reason, in conjunction with us being outside of Europe and maybe them not being completely convinced by Edu, enough of a reason to move him on. So for me, I'm less attached to Edu than I am Arteta, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not that attached with Arteta either, but it's kind of like I think Arteta has more to give. Edu hasn't really showed me much. We have Willian that came in, suspect. Bruno, whatever his name is, Maziaghi, whatever his name is, the physio, in and out, quick. That was an Edu appointment. So from what he's done so far, I wouldn't say that I'm so attached to him that if he did leave, that I would be upset, especially when you look at somebody like Luis Campos. is available at the moment. Would you what do you guys think about this? Like, are you guys attached to Edu? Do you think he needs more time? Or if he left tomorrow, would you be like, rah, rah, bye, guy. See you later. What do you think, Sulz?
To be honest with you, I've always said if you're going to keep Edu, you've got to get someone who knows the European market better. Edu seems to have a very good sort of knowledge on what's happening in the South American market in particular. The problem that we have is we don't have the backroom or we should say the boardroom to really help someone thrive unless they've got very well connected manager. Arteta is very new to the role in terms of management. Players who are looking to come to Arsenal may not trust him. You know, if we get, let's say, a Simeone or a Guardiola or a Klopp or a Luis Enrique, so he's more established in that world. So players are he's going to know players. They're going to know who Enrique is and what he can offer. So they're more likely to come. Whereas with Edu, they might trust him in South America because obviously he's Brazilian. He's got those connections. Whereas if we look at the likes of Luis Campos, for example, what he's done at Lille, very astute business. He's got Pepe sold for 72 million, yes, in installments, but it's still 72 million pound worth of business that he's then gone and reinvested to go win the league against the PSG side full of superstars. That's not an easy feat. That's like, Arsenal or an Aston Villa going and beating City for the league convincingly as well. All season, they've pretty much been at the top of the table. Now, that comes down to proper recruitment and knowing how to do your job. And I've always said, look, if you're going to have an Edu, you've got to have an Overmars next to him who knows the European market, and Edu can focus on the South American market. And that's the problem. In football, you don't want too many figureheads. So Edu, for me, suits a more niche club that's looking for those particular profile of players, or a development club, such as, I don't know, like a Leeds, for example, or someone like an Aston Villa or Southampton's a perfect example, where they bring in these sort of unknown entities and make them into superstars, sell them on, and then reinvest into the club just to maintain their status of a Premier League club. Edu would suit that kind of system. But for me, I'd want a Campos, a proven director of football, someone who can come in and he already knows how to build these teams up. Like Lille was a rebuild project for him, and he's done it in absolute short space of time. He's turned that Lille side into champions, into a Champions League team, and potentially even an established Champions League side. So I don't, to be honest, get rid. I've got no attack as a player. Fine, I respect him as a player, but in his new position, I have no respect. And I'm one of those, I can differentiate. I can respect him as a player, but criticize him as a director of football or technical director. So literally what like Albert's saying, I don't really have an attachment to them. If they're good enough, they can stay. If they're not good enough, for me, they can go. It's not about loyalty or sentiment. It's about what's good for Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah. And people are, I see this, that Bulgarian Gunnar is saying that Bar Willian, our recruitment has been good since Edu has come in, but who has he sold for a fee? That's important. That takes the skill to be able to recognize an opportunity.
Contracts aren't any better. We're still look at Lacazette now as well. We're still delaying.
Isn't that more a reflection of the shit that we previously signed? I mean, who wants to buy Mustafi? Who wants to buy Kolasinac? Who wants Mesut Ozil?
But we had a chance to sell Maitland-Niles and we kept him. Like, you know what I mean? It's sometimes about opportunity.
But that was uncertainty around Bellerin's future, uncertainty around Kieran Tierney's fitness. I think that was a stopgap just to make sure that we were covered, for the first 3 to 6 months of the season. I think selling players has been difficult for quite a few clubs, more so than us.
Yeah, but Nketiah, we had an offer for 20 to 20 or 20, 30 million as well. Like, we didn't sell him, and then we ended up not using him anyway. So I do think that lack of planning is something which I have to criticize.
Yeah, and it's not so much about that I don't think that he can do the job. I'm not sure if he can do it at this moment, if he has the skill set yet, because he's so new. It's kind of like with Arteta, we're kind of betting on him becoming something that we envision him to be in the future. We can only have one of those in the executive positions. We can't have 2 or 3 people that we're hoping get to that place in an Arsenal club, like in a declining Arsenal club. So for me, my only thing is, if you get rid of him, you got to get Luis Campos. Like, you can't get some other Tom, Dick, and Harry that doesn't have any credentials. It would have to be like the guy. And I think it would help Arteta if Arteta's more interested in European talent, which a lot of the players that we've been linked to are European talent, having somebody that's worked in and amongst Europe would be more beneficial to Arteta than Edu, who's a more expert in South American market. But this is all just, all up in the air. If he does get sacked, then we'll have a bigger conversation about it. But I just wanted to kind of see what you guys thought. But let's get into these player ratings for the season. Let's see. I don't think we're going to agree. I can already tell. I don't think we're going to agree. I don't think so. But I kind of want to start out with, we're going to start out with a big one and then end with we're going to end with big ones, start with big ones, all that kind of stuff. But let's start off with the main guy. Let's just get it out of the way. Let's start off with Aubameyang. We're going to do 1 through 10. Can
we talk about how we're rating them? Because I think that's important.
Well,
because I'm doing it off of expectations of them, but taking the league into consideration as well.
Yeah, I think you have to take in consideration like everything. I always take expectation into like my expectations of Chambers are a lot lower than my expectations of Aubameyang, so he signed the contract. He sat up there with Ian Wright and said that he wanted to be a legend. Then his decline started before he got injured and before everything kind of unfolded with his mom. And I don't think a lot of people want to take that into consideration. A lot of it is like, but his mom, but malaria, but his injury. It actually started right after the 25-man squad was announced. I've always had a hunch that he was promised certain players and certain type of profiles would come in. And once that didn't happen and he realized Ozil wasn't in the squad, he kind of said, well, how am I going to get service? The system changed. And it wasn't so much about Aubameyang anymore. It was about the team. Aubameyang really strikes me as I want it to be kind of about me type of guy. It has to suit me. Sorry if that's not what people want to hear, but that's just what I know about him. I'm also a Dortmund follower. So my ideas about Aubameyang have followed me. It's followed him all the way down to Arsenal, really. So for me personally, based on this season, all things considered, even that little bit of form that he had right before he got dropped for being late, I got to give him like a 4 out of 10 for this season. What do you think, Harry?
Yeah, I was going to say 5 out of 10. But I mean, that's effectively a 4, isn't it? I mean, 4 or 5. Either way, it's pretty shit. It's not good enough. Unfortunately, scored some important goals in the Europa League, got us over the line. I think Benfica away, was it? But other than that, it's just been inconsistent and distant and like I mentioned last night, I back Aubameyang to the hill, and if he stays and he scores, loads of goals next season, absolutely wonderful because I really like him. But sometimes when things aren't going your way, I would like to see a little bit more desire, aggression. I know they don't mean a lot, but I think it just helps the balance a little bit. So yeah, easily a really poor season for him. But considering the personal issues and injuries and whatnot, and all those little factors that I think have hampered his performance, I think a 5 out of 10 is the best I can give him.
Sulz?
He's my guy, but I can't give him a high rating because, firstly, he's signed on to be, even if you take the wages out of it, he's the captain of the football club. He's meant to lead by example. Even if you look at how he's been speaking, I want to be a legend of the club. How are you the legend of the club when you've shown no desire, no work rate? You've been better before you made that statement. And now, that for me, that's why I'm giving him a 3. Because it's not even about expectations of him. I just think he hasn't worked hard enough to try and get back into form. I've been the most disappointed, and I backed him the most this season. Even when he was going through all the things, I said, nah, this guy's going to get us through the mud. But every single time he has, and I'll agree with what Harry said in the Europa League. He has won us those legs. We wouldn't even got to a semi-final if it wasn't for him. But for me, it was a lack of desire. It was a lack of wanting, and then it was like he threw his toys out of the pram for a bit. And I understand, the things that are happening with this moment, obviously the illness and everything. But even if you take that away, like he was sulking, after Burnley, 1-1 after Burnley was really where I was like, I'm done with this guy for this season, because his comments after the game was like, oh, we tried to score goals, it just didn't happen, it is what it is. And I'm like, no, you're the captain of the football club. You're letting Saka week in, week out go after every single loss and take it from the media. You're letting, likes of Rob Holding or David Luiz go out when it's your mistake that cost us the game, or it's your lack of ability to finish that's causing us to lose game. I have to give him a 3, because I just don't think, for my expectations of him, I think he's been way below average. So I can't give him anything higher than a 3 for me.
Yeah, and if he's not the captain, then we don't have some of these conversations. But I can't say, well, because he's captain, we're going to change the definition of what a captain is. It is what it is. You have to lead by example, and you have to lead in everything that you do, and he doesn't do that. So I can't just say, well, because Aubameyang's not a captain type of guy, we're going to change it. No, we're not going to change it. Like, Aubameyang is a crap captain. He just is. It's just facts. And he's performed like not that great, and his attitude doesn't seem awesome, even though that we're not supposed to look at body language and all that type of stuff. It's not even body language. Like, that one interview that he did, I forget, like, it was like in that 7 to 8 game period where we were playing really bad. He had his hat down, he was looking all sulky. It was so embarrassing. It was like on the Arsenal website. I was like, yo, guy, like, I don't even know why they put it up. So, but that being said, I will say this though, is that I think we can look at this season in isolation, because this is his first bad season in terms of performance. And I do think he can come back. I don't think this is the end, so even though he has been crap this entire season, I'm not going to say that means that he will never come back into form. He did have some good form. I just think the season has just been really bad for him. So that being said, I think we all kind of gave him a bad rating, but I just want to put out there, I think he can come back, Mm-hmm. I really do.
So can I just quickly say one thing as well? Can we dispel this notion that, like, it's Arteta's fault and Arteta's mismanagement? I get that people don't like the manager and stuff, but to link, Aubameyang's just poor form to management of Arteta I just think it's just such an easy, cheap dig. I think Aubameyang banged loads of goals playing left wing in a 5-3-2 last year, or whatever. Sorry, a 5-3, whatever it was. With no number 10. And he banged goals. So it wasn't a system thing. It wasn't anything else but a player that's been in form, getting a massive contract, and his levels dropped. That's it. Like, it's not the manager. That's just a cheap dig at Arteta, which I know everyone loves to do. But I'm not having it tonight. If I see it, I'm going to comment on it.
I love that.
No, I think that's fair. I do.
For sure. Yeah. I think we're trying to be as fair as possible, but realistic too. All right. So David Luiz. Hey, he grew on me. Like, if you would have thought that last season, if you would have told me that I would actually kind of like David Luiz and be like a little bit disappointed that he wasn't getting an extension, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, no way. Because he was one of my least favorite players, like, ever. I mean, you automatically start off as a negative if you come from Chelsea and you're kind of like in their bin. Like, you're always going to start off at a negative. So then you have to work your way up. He's had a two seasons with us. The first one was horrendous, but it was under Emery. We saw that Arteta was able to put David Luiz and even Granit Xhaka in better positions so they don't get as exposed. That doesn't mean that they're perfect players, but they did play better under Arteta. And I think he was the leader that we needed. He definitely was one of the leaders when we didn't really have a captain that was like actually captaining. And the young kids really like him. He's one of the biggest reasons why Saka decided to sign that 5-year deal. So that's good. And the guy grew on me. He did. I didn't think I would ever forgive him for the 7-1, against Germany. I always held that against him for a very long time. So I'm actually going to let Harry go first on this one. What do you think?
Listen, man, I really like David Luiz. I know he made mistakes in his first season with those red cards and those penalties. But, that Mahrez foul was barely a foul. We've seen so much more not giving us penalties. And it's barely a red card, if you ask me. And then the one against Wolves this season isn't a foul. It's not a red card. But his reputation, means that he doesn't get those decisions to go his way, which kind of puts blemishes on our ability to analyse him fairly. But I think if you put those to one side, I think he's been decent this season. It's hard to give anyone, massive plaudits because it's been an inconsistent season. He certainly had a wobble, I think, mid-season when there were rumours that he was causing some unrest in the dressing room. And I think when we played Everton away, he wasn't captain and he didn't give a great performance. But apart from those few little things, I think he's been a really good player for us, and great to have someone around the team who clearly loves the club and clearly cares for the club and cares for the younger players. And his speech to the players in the changing room I thought was really, really nice, speaking about how your career can just go like that. He clearly loves the game. Big fan of David Luiz. Gonna miss him. Would have happily given him a year extension, but I understand sometimes you just have to move forward. I would say season rating of 6.5 out of 10. Are we doing 0.5s?
Yeah, you could do a 0.5. That's fine.
Thank you.
Of course.
6.5.
Sulz, what do you think?
I actually do agree with a lot of what Harry said. I think this season especially, he has been one of our standout performers. And I say that very lightly because I don't actually think there's been many. But no, I think with this sort of Arteta system where he wants you to be a ball playing, especially comfortable playing at the back, from what we've seen of him at Arsenal before the likes of Arteta came in, was shocking, to say the least, like mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. But the one thing I will disagree, I'm glad he's not getting an extension. To be personally, I think we have to be brutal, and I don't know how much more he can actually give. I know he's had a good season, but for me, it's like it is that time to move on, because a lot of what we're giving him the credit for, I'd give him a coaching position. Keep him in the backroom staff, give him a coaching role, let him develop the likes of, or we can even do, how we have player managers, we can give him a player coach role. So his priority is to coach. But if, let's say, for example, we do come across, a couple of injuries where we're lacking in centre-backs, we can then put him into the team rather than someone that's a part of it that's taking away minutes from the likes of, if it is, let's just say, for hypothetical reasons, let's say it's Saliba, Gabriel, Holding, and Marie, for example, let's just say it's them. He's going to be taken away from Saliba, or he's going to be taken away from Gabriel playing. So I do like him. And I think a lot of what I like about him isn't on the pitch. It's more off the pitch. He can lead that team. He can be there for them. And especially, games such as, let's say, a 1-1 at halftime. It's a very tight game and the pressure's really on us. He can come in and he can say the right things. He seems to be a very well-spoken person, and he seems to have that respect that people listen to him. So give him that coaching role. Give the minutes to the players who we need to be giving it to develop as players. But as a season, I'd say I definitely agree, like 6.5, or a 6.25 or something like that, right in the middle of it. We got into pi and everything like that, and do some algebra with him. No, just a 6.6 or a 6.5 will be more than fine for him.
Just quickly, what I think we'll miss is, because I know he's flopped in some big games, but he feels like a big game player, and in those FA Cup finals, or FA Cup semi-finals, he came through with some incredible performances. And let's not forget someone like Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville, who talk about mental health in football, all day long, but had no problem absolutely abusing that guy on Sky Sports and saying, he'll never play for Arsenal again, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. He came back from that and gave some heroic performances. So I think from that end, we'll miss that resilience, we'll miss that character, and I think it's important that we try to replace that. And if he was available for the Europa League semi-final, I think things would have been a bit different as well. So we'll never know. But yeah, just had to get that out there quickly.
I'm going to give David Luiz a 7 for this season, man. I think he was good. I do. I think he was good. When he got injured and then Holding was back there trying to do those crossfield balls, I was like, man, I missed that guy. So I'm actually going to give him a 7. So yeah, let us know in the chat box what you guys think. But 6.5, 6.25, 7, somewhere around there. All right, let's talk another Brazilian center back. Gabriel. I don't think a lot of people were that high on him when he came in, because we were very high on Saliba, and he was kind of like this also-ran type of person, like, who is this guy? We got him for, I think, a good fee. He came in with like 22, something like that. Yeah, it was like the longest saga. Do you guys remember that? It was like a very long saga over the summer. Like, were we going to get him? Is Manchester United going to get him? Yeah, it was weird. But I always rated him. Always thought he was really good. Started off really, really well, like player of the season type vibes from the very beginning. Hit a rough patch towards the middle, got COVID, and then he was kind of in and out. Like, and towards the end of the season, it kind of seemed like Arteta was preferring Marie, which I found to be a little bit strange because Gabriel's the guy that you spent the money on. Him and Holding didn't really gel. And I think we also found out that he's not as good with his feet as maybe we had been previously told. That was definitely something that I kind of looked at and I was like, man, you aren't the ball playing center back that I thought you were. Other than that, I think for his very first season in the Premier League and for all the inconsistencies of the people that he's played next to, plus COVID and all those things and his age, I think I would give Gabriel a 6 for his first season, just above average. That's not to say that he can't get better. I would expect him to do better next season, but I would give him a 6. I think he was just above average. What do you think, Sulz?
Yeah, I agree. He's had some really good goals as well at crucial moments in the season. He's helped us get back into games as well. So I do think there's a lot to come from him. Obviously, first season in the Premier League is always an adjustment, and you can let a few things off. I don't think he was helped by obviously Arteta's sort of defensive partnership. I think he was trying to figure a lot of things out in terms. Obviously, Arteta was, so he's obviously played with Gabriel, with Holding, and then David Luiz, and then obviously someone else. So I do think when you consider that into it as well, and Gabriel and Holding, they're just the two most rash players that we have, and putting them together where one can't communicate with the other because Gabriel's, I don't know how true it is, but he lacks English, like he can't speak it as well or as fluently, so he's a bit more Portuguese spoken. Obviously, that's why with David Luiz, he seems to be a bit better. So considering all of that, I do think he's had an all right season for me. I think I've seen promise from him. That's ultimately what I want to see from a signing. Is there any promise? Is there any, especially with a somewhat of an unknown entity where we don't fully know, because I didn't know much about Gabriel before we were linked to him. And when he came in, I found him to be somewhat impressive. Then he dipped in, and then near the end of the season, he's been good again. So I'd say overall for me, a 6.
Harry, what do you think?
Well, I mean, do you know what it is? Me and my friends have got an Arsenal WhatsApp group, and
that I'm not in. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, sorry. We put a message on the other day, and one of my friends asked, "Is Gabriel good?" And I was like, "I don't know. Is he good?" So, I mean, I would say 5 out of 10. Like, I just think he's been okay. I think for a new signing, obviously there's more expectation. For a left-sided centre-back, you always assume left-footed defenders are going to be really good on the ball. He's not particularly good on the ball. I think he gets way too tight to some strikers, but I think that's because maybe he just doesn't know the strikers. I remember against West Ham, I think he got man in the match against West Ham at home, but I think he got absolutely bullied by Antonio in that game. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't been that impressed with him. I think obviously new season, new league, COVID, transitional period, all of that. So I'm sure he'll go on to be a good centre-back for us, but I don't know if we remember Thomas from Marlon. It was the same kind of thing. Came in, we thought, oh, yeah, this guy looks good, scored a few goals, and kind of just fizzled out. So, I don't know, 5 out of 10. I haven't been impressed by him, to be honest.
Dang, is Gabriel good? You guys in the chat box answer that question. Is Gabriel good? I mean, I think a lot of people are like, is he? Like, what is this? But he wasn't that hyped. Like, for me, Saliba was more hyped than him, so my expectations weren't like super high of him, but I think he has a high ceiling, but the guy is not a ball playing center back. So whoever's on the right.
I just read a comment from Dizzy. Was Gabriel our player a month, 4 months in a row?
I think he was from like the very beginning.
I take it all back. Maybe the past months have blurred my.
Nope, I'm gonna clip it and put it out there on the internet and see what people say about you. You're done. It's already chronicled there. But no, but for real, I do think that there's some legs to, is he actually that good? Or is he just better than what we had before? So I mean, we've had some really crap center backs, so there's definitely that. But I think he has a good ceiling. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, the guy can't play the ball out of the back. So whoever plays on the right-hand side needs to know what they're doing. Let's talk Bellerin. Oh, Bellerin. Time for you to go, man. I like him as obviously like as a person and all that kind of stuff. And like, I agree with Harry 110%. I hate that people bring up his lifestyle and stuff like that. I don't get it. Like, who cares what he's like outside of football? Like who really cares about that kind of stuff? But on the pitch, the guy's a liability. Like, he's not the right back that we need. He's not it, And I watched like an old game of him and I was like, losing the pace killed him. It just killed him off. The guy is just, he was a pace merchant. And when he lost that, he just became kind of like just nothing, So for me this season, I think he's been really poor. There were some games that people thought he played well. And I was like, what are you watching? His final ball is horrendous. And when you take risks with your right back and leave Rob Holding or David Luiz exposed, the final ball needs to be good. It needs to be worth the risk. And a lot of times it just wasn't. His final ball to be 25 and to have not worked on that to me is criminal. So I'm going to give Bellerin a 3 for the season. See you later. Have fun wherever you go after this. Sulz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree because I actually don't think he's not the right back that we need. He's not the right profile of player. I think all his sort of attacking runs are not good. He cuts inside too many times for me. He occupies where an inside forward should be rather than hugging the touchline. He has been doing that recently. Fair play to him. Maybe he is learning, but for me, it's a little too late. The funny thing is because Cedric and Chambers aren't actually that much better. The only reason they look better is because they do the right things. They're at the right places where they need to be to allow those wingers to be able to play. Since his injury especially, I don't rate Bellerin. I don't think he's the right profile for a lot of teams. He's defensively unaware. I think his positional, like he ball watches too much. He goes to the ball rather than actually looking at, okay, what do I need to do? He doesn't go where the danger is. He goes towards the ball more than anything. So for me, I think like 2. I think he's been. I've not been happy at all with him. I don't rate him at all. Like at all. Yeah, like a 2. His number on the back is a 2 in this. I'll give him that.
There you go.
Oh, my pride is dented here.
Sorry.
It's Bellerin on the phone. It's Bellerin. He wants to talk to you. He's not happy with that 2 or 3.
He's like, that SheKnowsArsenal fan channel, yeah, don't like it.
Listen, yeah, I mean, poor season from him. I mentioned it last week. I think he was a couple of Aubameyang finishes away from some really important assists, but obviously clutching at straws a little bit. But I'm not going to go, as low as you guys. I'm going to still say 5 out of 10 for respect of a player that still gives his all, still tries, but clearly because of his injury, he's now hampered. So yeah, I'm going to say 5 out of 10.
I know that hurt you, Harry. I'm sorry. I had to keep it real, but you will be proud of me when we do Xhaka. I promise.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm saying 5 out of 10 is because there hasn't been games where he's given us a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. There's been games where he's been disappointing, 5 out of 10. And there's been many 5 out of 10. So I'm not gonna go super low because I just don't feel like that's fair on a footballer who is also trying to change the world.
Yeah, but I'm rating him as a footballer, not as a person. If I was as a person, I'd give him a 10. But I'm rating him as a footballer on the pitch.
Well, for Hector Bellerin, I'm doing hybrid ratings.
I've planted trees, yeah. I'm a 10 out of 10. Can I play for Arsenal Football Club? Because I've done that.
Of course you can. Yeah. If I'm in charge, of course you can, Sulz. Of course.
No,
I'm good people.
Exactly. No.
Good people FC.
Rating them as players.
Good people FC. I love it. All right, let's move on. Let's fly through the next 2 because they don't need a lot of explanation. Cedric came in as a left back / right back, doesn't play either position now. Think maybe we should move him on if we can, because if Chambers is going to be playing, then why do you need Cedric? Just okay. I think he got dealt kind of like some bad cards having to play that left back position, knowing that he was like super right-footed. Other than that, I think he's been relatively average to below average this season. He's just okay. So I'm just going to give him a 4. Sulz?
I'll pretty much reiterate what I said before when I was talking about Bellerin. I think Cedric looks better because he holds his position well. in terms of the attacking sense. Defensively, I actually think he's been decent as well. Everyone's been crying for him to start. Obviously, Chambers has been, I think, the best of both in terms of defensively and attacking. But I think Cedric was hard done because at left back, I could see it straight away. This isn't working. There's only certain players who can go onto the other side and still perform. You need somewhat of a weak foot, and he seems to not be favouring his left foot at all. So it's going to be a harsh one, but I think a 4 for me.
4, Harry, what do you think?
Well, now I'm thinking about my other ratings. I've just decided to myself that my ratings are all over the place, aren't they? I don't know anymore.
You're allowed to contradict yourself and just do whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, why change?
Are we going to rate Cedric as a person too? Do we know anything about his humanitarian work? Or okay.
No, it's only relevant for players I have a soft spot for. Cedric, yeah, I mean, I would say 5.5 out of 10. I think he's come in and performed adequately at times. But other times at left back, he's found wanting. He had a good game at Southampton away at left back. I remember played a great ball out to the right wing, whoever it was for, and we scored a goal.
Saka, yeah.
That's yeah. But he's hardly featured recently. I'd say a 5.5. But yeah, it doesn't really excite me as a player. And you know, where for some reason Chambers has got this likability factor, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because of his resurgence, but with Cedric, I don't feel like he's in it. I don't feel like he's part of us. I don't know. Yeah. So 5.5 out of Cedric. Meh.
If you can't beat Chambers out for the spot, Bellerin / Cedric, you both need to go, because Chambers is not even like a real right back. Like, he's a utility guy, you know, so that's been around the club for like 10 years. So that's just kind of how I feel about them. But the other person that came in January, like last season, Marie, he's just all right. Some people think he's really good. I think the guy's just okay. They're like, oh, he doesn't make as many mistakes as Gabriel. He just doesn't get called for them. There's quite a bit of times where I looked at Maria and I was like, you could have easily been sent off for that. You could have easily got a penalty for that. And he's not that good on the ball either, in my opinion. I think our left-sided center backs are going to definitely be the more defender guys, and the right-sided center back needs to be able to use that ball. But Marie's just okay. He's just been all right. I do like that he has some leadership ability. That's what you want to call it. And he knows his role, you know, so I like that about him too. So I'm going to give Marie a 6 for the season. Harry?
He's tall, dark, and handsome, so I'll give him that. But I would say 5.5. I mean, I'd say he's been marginally more consistent than Gabriel. Probably provides a bit more of a calming influence on the defense, more so than a Gabriel. It feels a little bit less hectic when he's playing at the back. But like you say, his ball playing abilities, they're not good enough, and he's very hesitant. So he plays that pass a little bit too late, and he often dribbles into space and then plays the pass, which is almost like passing the blame rather than passing the ball. But you know, essentially, he's meant to be our third, fourth choice centre back. So yeah, I think he's good enough to keep around the squad. I would say 5.5 out of 10.
Sulz?
Yeah, I think my expectation of Mario was quite low anyway. But he is a player who seems to just do his job. Every time he's called upon, he seems decent, like you said. I don't think he's an exceptional centre-back. I don't think he's someone who's going to absolutely drive this club to where it needs to be. But for the time being, just to get back into sort of top 6, top 4, establish ourselves as a side and just kind of share his experiences, I think he's all right for that. Yeah, I'd say a 5.
Yeah, he's just all right. Let's move on. Martinelli, all of our favorites, our guy. You know, he probably played like two full games this entire season, but I'm going to give him a 10 for that. Like, you know, because I love him. No, but injured for a lot of the season, coming back from a horrendous injury. Don't know why I just got fuzzy, but we'll just move on. Martinelli probably should have played more, but I can't really blame Arteta for not playing him because he came back from such a horrific injury, and I don't think that what he was giving us when he first came back into the team was as good as what people were making it out to seem. It was just not Willian. You know, if you weren't Willian, you should have been playing. And I just think with Martinelli, we need to be careful. since he's come into the fold in the kind of like the end of the season, I think we still have a player on our hands. The guy is really good. So I'm actually going to give him based on expectations and what he was actually able to do, and a little bit of like feeling bad for him because he was injured. I'm going to give him an 8. You know, Martinelli can't really do much wrong for me. So I'm going to give him 8. You know, Harry, what do you think?
I would say a 6 out of 10, just simply because we just haven't seen enough of him. And in some of the games, he's been good. In some of the games, he's been a little bit average. But I can't really put that on him because that would just be down to a match fitness thing or not being played enough. There were a few games like Villa away when he definitely should have come on instead of Willian. And that's where Arteta, you know, got a bit obsessed with trying to make this Willian signing a good thing. But yeah, I'd probably say 6 out of 10 for this season. But yeah, a real bright player for the future. And I think in the next few years, he's going to bang goals for fun.
Yep. Sulz, what do you think?
He's the resurgence. Like when ESR came in, that's when the club was back where we needed to be. The guy is passion. The guy is hard work. He's the Brazilian wonder kid. He's the next R9 Ronaldo. He's gonna be the one that's gonna take us back to where we need to be, man. This guy he oozes class. He oozes flair. You know what? Just let the guy off his shackles, man. Just let him run with that ball. Let him do what he needs to do. Yeah, this guy, like, you know, every time I see him play, yeah, I've always said he does need to, maybe this season especially, just stop pressing as much. I know you want and this is the thing, he's hungry. I've always said, you know what, he's like a bulldog that you've told to attack. Just go attack these players. Go get that ball off them as quick as you can. Do you know what he is? He is Pep's, you know, definitive of that 9-second rule. You can only let the opposition have the ball for 9 seconds. You have to win it back. He is that perfect player. And for me, even when he's come on, hardest play. The funny thing is, every time he comes on, we say he's the best player. Not because he is, because he actually has been. Presses the ball high, wants to win the ball, wants to score goals, wants to attack, and you know, I think he's had an exceptional season for the very little he's played. And coming off the bench, he wins my heart every time, man. I'm going to give him an 8 or a 9 out of 10.
Ooh. Martinelli propaganda, I love it.
Yeah, I don't care.
It is what it is. I mean, I think we all know that he didn't play that many minutes and all that kind of stuff. But, I mean, he's still 19. My expectations of him aren't, like, massively overblown or anything. And, you know, next season if he gets more minutes, I'll give him a more fair rating. But giving the man an 8. You know, I love Martinelli. Next Brazilian on the list. Let's fly through this one. I mean, like, come on. The guy was horrendous. You know, I don't even feel bad about giving him an NA. Not applicable. Like, you don't even get a 0. Like, so I'm going to give the man an NA. He wants to go back to Chelsea. Good luck with that, buddy. Nobody at Stamford Bridge, they're still laughing that they got us on that deal. And they got you off their books, you know, but the man gets an NA for me. Not applicable. Not even anything. I'm not even going to be fair. Whatever, you know. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, same as you. I thought it was a clever signing. I thought it would be a good signing. I thought he had a really good season at Chelsea last year. I thought he would provide us with that experience in the attacking lines that we need. I thought it would help Pepe and help Saka and help Martinelli. It's done the total opposite. He's been, you know, a really, really, really shit signing. Nothing positive to say. Assist against Fulham aside, West Brom free kick at home aside, it's just been shit. So yeah, NA.
Sulz?
0.
I don't even know what to say. I'm glad he's going. He's, you know, farewell to you, mate. Good luck on your adventures. Make sure. I hope the door hits you on the way out, and just go tear up the American Retirement League and enjoy. Yeah, go to what's it, LA Galaxy you support? Yeah, just go to LA Galaxy and enjoy your football over there, mate. Honestly, he's one of those players. I don't care. I have no attachment for him. Like Harry said, I actually thought, you know what, maybe it's the signing we needed that we didn't know we needed. For a free, yes, we're paying a hell of a lot of wages for him. But I thought, okay, his experience, okay, fair enough. He wasn't really a done player because even Chelsea wanted to re-sign him when they usually don't. So I thought maybe we'll get a good year out of him and then we'll let him go. But he has been shocking. absolutely terrible. I'm not even, like you said, I didn't even know. I was going to give him -10, but that's justifying his performances. So I say not applicable as well.
But you know what? It's not even that he's been that bad. It's that he's just been nothing, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's not like he came.
just-
It's not like he came on the pitch and gave the ball away loads of times, or like
he hit in a lot of
crosses and
games.
awful shots. Yeah, he just did nothing. Like he just provided us with nothing, like an empty,
Wasn't
hidden performance.
Wasn't it something like he had 0 shots on target for like 15 games or something?
And he played so much. And, it's so frustrating that he has almost the same amount of minutes played as Nicola Pepe. And look how good Pepe's playing now. Like, the fact that they have a similar amount of minutes played to me is absolutely criminal. And the guy is a joke. Like, he's just I'm not going to batter him anymore. Not applicable. Moving on. Whew. God, can't wait for him to go. Holding. Look, Holdinho. My main memory of Holding, well, I have 2 for the season, is that little juggle thing that he did against Fulham in the first game of the season, where he was like by the goal doing like little kick-ups and stuff. And I was like, wow, this guy is like really bold. He has these little flares of skill every once in a while that come out of nowhere, and I don't know where they come from. And then the second one is Sterling jumping over him for that header. The guy, he's a backup center back. But I think he's done better than maybe people want to give him credit for. So for me, based on expectations and what he actually put out there, I'm actually going to give him a 6.5. Holdini, he is what he is. That's probably as good as he could play, really. Besides some of the obvious mistakes, like letting Sterling jump over him. What do you think, Harry?
I think, just to quickly reference that goal, if you watch that goal back, Sterling doesn't jump over Holding. He just times it better. Holding doesn't even jump. He's not set. The cross comes in. He's not set. He doesn't know where Sterling is.
Why are you going to die on this hill, Harry?
Because I just need to make sure people watch the goal and watch. Rob Holding doesn't jump. He just isn't set. It's poor positioning. It's got nothing to do with height, nothing to do with Sterling being this tall and Holding being that tall. Just got to get out of there. I would say Rob Holding has performed relatively consistently in what feels like a makeshift, ever-changing defense, ever-changing system, back 5, back 4, back 5, back 3. I think he's performed okay. I'm going to give him a 6.5.
There you go. Sulz, what do you think?
Yeah, it's been all right. I'm not impressed by him, to be honest. I don't, because the thing is, I've not seen. It's the lack of consistency for me that's really put him down, and I just want these inconsistent players out of the club. I'm gonna give him a 4 because I think he's been okay, but I just don't think he's been good enough either. And if this is the best he's got to offer, he needs to go quicker than any of the players we have, because this isn't good enough. I think the problem is, right, for me, he just doesn't go in for tackles enough. He seems to be very off-put by going in and being aggressive. And that's why I think the likes of David Luiz, Marie, Gabriel, they seem better because they're really wanting to defend, whereas he's like holding off and letting them into the box. He needs to be able to tackle further up and be a bit more aggressive with the way he defends. For me personally, that's the way I like my defenders. And that's the only reason I'm giving him a 4.
All right. Let's rapid fire the next 3. Chambers, I'm going to give Chambers a 7 based on expectation, coming in at the end, small sample size, better than Bellerin, better than Cedric, pretty reliable, good crosses, which is important in the final third. Your right back kind of needs to be able to cross the ball, and he's one of the only ones who can. And I'm just going to give him that based on, those factors. So 7 for Chambers. Sulz?
Yeah, 6 for me.
Harry?
Yeah, 7 for me. Agree with what you said about his delivery. He whips crosses in, whereas Bellerin would float them in, so they take an eternity to get there. Callum Chambers drills it in, so it's got a much greater chance of finding the man. 7 out of 10, he's done well.
All right, Nketiah needs to be sold. Move him on. Nothing really to write home about. He's just okay. I'm going to give him I don't want to be harsh. I'll give him a 5, because he didn't play a lot. And when he played, he was just okay, So, Harry, what do you think about Nketiah?
Yeah, same. 5 out of 10. Should have taken a move in the summer. Should have taken a loan move. I know we speak about Edu, not selling it, Eddie Nketiah, but maybe it was a case of that Nketiah was happy just to stay at Arsenal. But yeah, 5 out of 10. Time to go. Thank you for the last minute equaliser against Fulham.
not applicable for me because I actually don't think he's not done anything for me. Like, and I think that's me not being harsh on him because I don't want to rate him because I don't think he's not done anything good. He's not done anything really. I just don't think he's been. It's like he's just one of those. Like he's just there. So I can't rate him.
Okay. Let's do El Neni. Some screamers, plays really hard. Nothing really, I mean, expectations are low for me with him. So I think based on what I expect from him and what he's given us this season, I give El Neni a 6, still passing backwards like nobody's business, but ultimately pretty solid. So 6. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly the same as you again. 6. Just sometimes he has the ball, does something really good, and you're like, go on, play it that way, play it that way, play it that way. And he waits and he waits and he waits, and then he doesn't play it that way. Really annoying sometimes. But he's coming. He's meant to be a 4th, 5th choice central midfielder, and he comes in and does a decent job most of the time. Tries hard, works hard, and obviously is a very nice man. 6 out of 10.
Sulz?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think he just does his job, works hard, plays well. So yeah, no, I agree. Like a 5 or a 6 would do.
All right, that's El Neni. Okay, we'll get to some of the more exciting ones now. Nicola Pepe can kind of be player of the season if you just want to take the last kind of part of the season. Deceptively, really good numbers. I don't think people realize how many goals that he scored and goal involvements that he has. And somebody who's not aesthetically pleasing, I think he's one of those that he kind of looks like Bambi on ice sometimes. But then the quality that he has in the box, his true superpower is goal scoring. It's finishing. I think we thought we were getting a tricky winger that could beat a man. That's not even his bag. His bag is literally banging goals into the back of the net. So for me, Nicola Pepe I can't say he exceeded my expectations because I expected him to continue on with what he was doing last season, but he was dropped unnecessarily for Willian, which isn't necessarily his fault. He's had some moments where he didn't look necessarily into it. I think against Leeds, he really let himself down and let us down. But since then, he's slowly come back into the team and he finished the season strong. So I'm going to actually give Pepe a 7. I like the guy and I hope he stays and I hope he continues this trajectory and he doesn't have some loser from Stamford Bridge with an afro come and take his spot next season. I would be very, very upset.
Can I ask a question? Is there an afro loser at Chelsea right now?
Is there an afro loser?
I don't think there is, so we're all right for next season.
I think we're good, unless we want to take like Callum Hudson-Odoi or some craziness like that, but that would never happen.
But he ain't a loser. I rate him.
He's not a loser, but he would turn into one once he got to London Colony. You know how it happens really fast. But Sulz, what do you think? Give us a rating for Pepe.
Nah, he should have headbutted that Leeds player a bit better, man. I'm disappointed. If you're gonna headbutt someone, headbutt them, innit? Do a Zidane, like put some power in there, man.
Nah, Harry, your boy Alioski.
Yeah, you should have headbutted him properly. Nah, I think to be fair to Pepe, considering like how much he was dropped, how much like when he was starting to perform a little bit, then he was dropped again, and then obviously restarted. It's one of those where I don't want to be too harsh on him because I think he's had a good season considering. Like if you look at the Wolves goal, for example, when you look at the goals against Brighton, like he's had moments, and that's the problem. He's having moments, not consistently good 90 minutes. So for that reason, and my expectations of him, it's tough, and this is going to sound very harsh, but overall from the season, I'm going to give him a 6 because I think if you're going to isolate moments of the season, then yeah, you'll give him higher ratings. Like if you're going to go off the last sort of 3-4 months, you'll probably give him like a 7 or an 8. But then if you're going to go from the start of the season to about December, you're probably going to give him like a 3 or a 4 because he was like, well, first he wasn't playing. So that's the reason why in the middle of them two, I'd give him like a 6.
Harry?
Yeah, I'm the same, to be honest. I know his recent form's been great, but the season's done. It's almost too late in that respect. And it's a bit like if you look at Gareth Bale's numbers. I think they were comparing him to Mane today, saying he scored loads of goals. Gareth Bale scored against Sheffield United, Southampton, Palace, Burnley, and Brighton at home, and Leicester away. I mean, so they're not essentially the really, really big important games. 6. I just want to see more of it. I know he hasn't played enough. I know we can criticise Arteta and Willian for that, but when he has come on in the early parts of the season, there wasn't enough desire, there wasn't the right attitude, and that's not an opinion. I think that's fact. You could see in his body language, he was obviously annoyed at Willian coming in. He was annoyed at being dropped, and rather than rise above it and prove the manager wrong, he almost kind of sulked and went into his shell a little bit. In recent months, he has been better, but it's a 38-game season, so I'm going to say 6 out of 10. But it's really great that he's scoring some goals now, and hopefully next season Arteta starts him from game 1 and he carries it on.
Yep, I agree. Leno, I don't even know where to begin on this one. Harry, do you want to start with this one? I mean, it's just
Yeah, listen, I'm trying to be respectful to our players today, so I'm saying 5 out of 10, but I would give lower if I wanted to, but I'm going to try to be kind.
What did you give him? Sorry?
5 out of 10.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just don't think he's good enough to lead our club back into the top 4 when we have so many broken or half broken positions, ahead of him. I just think we need a real solid keeper, not a solid shot stopper, a solid keeper, which means an authoritative voice, a leader, someone with a bit of gamesmanship, someone who, when a team gives away a free kick against West Ham away, doesn't look in the air and then turn his back to play and then face it. Too many mistakes like that have been really detrimental to me. And I'm going to contradict myself because I'm going to give players, higher ratings that have made mistakes. But I just think for a goalkeeper, I want you to be really solid. So I'm going to say 5 out of 10. I just don't think he's been good enough this year.
Sulz, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know if I said it to you, but I'm sure I've said it on someone's platform. Emi Martinez was the curse of Leno because he showed everything that Leno lacked in terms of that assertiveness, in terms of playing out the back, being commanding of the box. And, I'll make another point. If you look at any of the top 5/top 10 keepers, they've all got, sharing attributions, which is commanding in the box, the leaders at the back, and they have somewhat of competency to play out the back. A goalkeeper's standards, right, is shot stopping, and Leno can do that. That's just the basics for me. That's like asking a centre-back to defend. That's just what shot stopping is. But what you need in the modern game, especially under these sort of top managers, they're going to ask you to play out at the back. They're going to ask you to be a little bit more assertive in your box, and he hasn't had any of that. And I'm going to be realistic. I'm not even going to be respectful, and I'm going to give him a 3. Because they haven't respected us, so why should I respect the players this season, mate? I'm going to be real with it. It's 3.
I was laughing at this comment, this Mikel Arteta in the comment section saying there's a reason why I play him. I just can't.
I can imagine him saying that as well. Arteta. He's got the right tone of voice.
His goal conceded is not very high, so I like to play him, give him opportunity. Martinelli, I injured him in training. I got David Luiz to beat him up. There's been another training room bust up, so he's going to play for me.
And I will find the mole. Arteta was desperate to find that mole. That really pissed me off. I was like, we're losing games and you're desperate.
You know what happened? I think Matt Ryan is the mole. So he's like, no, Leno, you play. Rodison, you know Snitch, you play too.
I cannot. Okay, so I'm just going to give Leno a 4. You guys know I don't. When he caught the ball outside the box against Wolves, I was just like, man is broken. In a time where we need you to suck it up, we could have got something from that game. And because he capitulated, when you do that, even though it's like, well, we're already down a man, we go down a goalkeeper, it just disrupts the team. And any sort of halftime talk that we had to try to galvanize the group went out the window when he did that. And I know he'll never make mistakes like that again. He palmed the ball into the top of the net twice at the end of the season, as well as letting it slip by his in his near post against West Ham. He continued to make mistakes this season. And I agree with Sulz that Emi Martinez messed him up. He messed him up bad, so 4. All right. So Tierney, the guy, he's amazing. I love him. I mean, he's injury prone-ish, whatever you want to give him. But when he's out there, I mean, he rarely drops. Like, always some players are like, oh, he dropped a 4 today. The guy's his floor is like a 6-7. That's as bad as he gets. When he plays bad, it's still better than a lot of people's best. So future captain of Arsenal, has the right attitude, young, good. Like probably if he was fit, he'd probably be up there best left back in the league next to Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw just happened to eat some less hamburgers this season and he was able to be fit. But if Tierney can be fit, I think he'll make a run for that because he's better than Chilwell. We know that. He's better than those players, So Tierney for me for the season gets a 7.5, and that's literally just because he had injury problems. If he had been able to keep up, if he performed the way that he performed in those games and played more games, giving the man like a 9. Kid is good. Harry, what do you think?
I'm going to say I'm between like a 6.5 and a 7. I think he's been good this season. I think there's been a few games where he was just average, but because we like him, we don't talk about it. I'm going to say, I think there's been a few games. I think there's been a few games this season when the right midfielder has got crosses in way too easily. But listen, it happens to every fullback. I just think, just want to analyze him fairly. So I'm going to say. I'm going to say 7, but with regards to the captaincy thing, I think we just do it in the summer. I think it's a great time to do it. The season's over. We just say to Aubameyang, look, you're going to stay, focus on scoring goals, get your good times back, and Kieran Tierney be the Arsenal captain now. I think just do it now because why wait? Do you know what I mean? Like we know Aubameyang isn't that captain. Arteta is aware of that. He obviously gave it to him to, for him to sign the contract or stay at the club longer. But it hasn't really worked out. There's no harm in changing it and give it to someone who could be the Arsenal left back for the next 5, 6, 7 seasons. So I would just say make him captain now, and I'm going to say a 7 out of 10.
The issue with that, though, is that we all know that will be. It's kind of like when we said if you drop Leno against like Villarreal to play Ryan, you're looking for a new goalkeeper in the summer. I think it's similar to Aubameyang because if you strip him, that's it. I think he's so fragile that we couldn't do it. I can't see it. I just think he's a fragile individual. It's the right thing to do, and we should be able to just move it on, but I don't think.
I just think if you do it in the summer when the spotlight isn't on the Premier League as much, it can almost go under the radar.
The spotlight is always on Arsenal. You strip Aubameyang, it'll be all they talk about for the entire summer of just like. As soon as they see that he's not wearing it, is he going? Is he doing this? Is he doing that? But
maybe.
Sulz, what do you think?
No, I actually don't think I don't think it would actually ruin Aubameyang by taking the captaincy. It just depends on how you do it and how you go around doing it. I think if you sit him down and say to him, look, I think the captaincy is weighing on you a little bit. Obviously, look. Arteta, Edu, and them lot are going to have better understanding because they're going to be speaking to these players. They'll evaluate it and do what's best for the club. If obviously the captaincy isn't the thing that's weighing him down and there's actually other factors going on in his life, then fair enough. Like I don't mind. To be honest with you, I really don't care who wears the captaincy for me because Tierney is always going to be that leader on the pitch. He's always going to be vocal. He's done it this season without the captaincy. The armband for me is just an armband. It hasn't got the meaning that it used to have. Under Emery, we had 7 captains. Under Arteta, it's been obviously Aubameyang, and for me, it's like Tierney will get his opportunity. I just think people need to stop talking about it. It is what it is. It's just move on from it. I think it's such a meaningless topic. It's like you don't need the captaincy to be a leader. It's just something you've got on your arm. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Yeah, I know Arteta would probably give Elneny the captaincy.
This Arteta in the comment section is killing me. But yeah, no, I feel you. And some people really rate the captaincy. They think it's a big deal, and other people don't.
It's just it doesn't have the same meaning anymore. I think in football now it just doesn't matter who. It's just it tends to be. I think.
Listen, I think it depends. I think you look at someone like Jordan Henderson. I mean, he was a voice throughout that title campaign for Liverpool, a voice throughout the Champions League when he played a huge role in galvanising that club back to the top. I think You look at someone like Harry Maguire, he's given, Man United a bit more consistency. I think when you're in a rebuild, I think you need a voice. And I think the problem is when you have
it doesn't matter who's got the captaincy. Anyway, Maguire, even without that armor, let's say they took the armor and just threw it away.
Yeah, I know, but why?
It still can do that.
But why are we talking about the captaincy issue? Because we're talking about the captaincy issue because it's an issue, and it's an issue because we feel potentially the wrong person has got it. So if you give it to the right person, all of these conversations are dead because the right person has it. The reason why it becomes a conversation is because when we lose a game and Aubameyang's late for the North London derby, or he's not giving interviews, everyone talks about that's not how your captain should be acting. Whereas if we have the right captain, the right personality, then hopefully all of those conversations are void. I just think we need it to carry on progressing
somebody else.
Table. But anyway,
so who's your what is your rating for Tierney though?
Yeah, I think the fact that we've only won like 20-something% of our games without him just shows how vital he is to us. So for me, he's been an 8 out of 10.
Woo!
80% of our games with him there, and 20% have been won without him. So that just shows how crucial either that left back role is or he is to the system.
I think it's both. It's definitely both, But let's move on to Lacazette. His best season
Breaking news as well on him. So Edouard is only going to be in contention to signing for Arsenal if Lacazette leaves.
Oh, I don't even think we need a striker, to be honest. But those are other conversations that we definitely can have. But Lacazette, best season ever as an Arsenal player. Still only scored like 13 goals in the Premier League. But I think he's better than his stats, in terms of like what he gave us in build-up, and he really added something with ESR and the younger players. I think he stepped up as a leader in that second half of the season. That being said, the guy still has limitations. I think his best years are behind him. And I think you need to keep either one of Xhaka or Lacazette just for continuity and some sort of leadership in the squad. But ultimately, I would rather keep, I know this might be controversial, I'd rather keep Xhaka than Lacazette because I think we have enough strikers in that, enough strikers to use. But he was okay this season. He was good. I'm going to give him a 6.5. He's for a striker, you should be scoring more. But for Lacazette, this was good. But I still think he left a lot to be desired. Does that kind of make sense? It was just kind of there. I can't give him like a 7 or 8 because, he should be scoring more than that. But Harry, what do you think about Laka?
Yeah, agree. 6.5 is on the money for me. Started the season well with a few goals, then had a really indifferent spell in that horrible run, missed some big chances, which is where we saw Nketiah, who came in for a few games, who also missed some big chances. So didn't really lead the line like we needed to at the start of the season. But then second half of the season, he was part of that resurgence against Chelsea, carried on, scored some important goals, led by example. Clearly a great guy to be around. The younger players clearly like him. But yeah, numbers still aren't good enough if you want to be challenging for the top 4. So I will say a 6.5.
What do you think, Sulz?
Yeah, I think he's the right profile, but just not the right player. He is. I think what we need is a goal-scoring Lacazette. Someone who can do what Lacazette can do, like a whole. Like what I mean is like the hold-up play, the ability to kind of bring other players into the game. But the one thing that he lacks is the goals, and unfortunately, we need that out-and-out goal scorer, and that's going to be coming down to the player who's in the middle. The way that we play, the way we spam crosses into the box, and he's such a weird one because he does a lot right, but the only thing that he's actually lacking for me is the goals. Like if he can somehow start scoring more, it's his lack of finishing, and I think this team has lacked it this season though, and it's not a Lacazette problem. It's just been a team problem. We've not had that killer instinct. We've been in the box and we start to play with it, or we start to do some fancy flicks, or try and score some fantastic goals. Where sometimes just score the goal. I don't care about how many passes in the box you've done. So I do agree. I think a 6 out of 10. He's been one of our sort of good-ish players. He has helped the team in the style that we want to play. So I'd say a 6 is fair.
All right. You guys let us know in the chat box what you think about Lacazette. And let's move on to one of the most divisive figures at the club. I mean, the man was in the team of the year for the CIES yesterday. And I tagged Harry in it, and everybody was, he's the reason why we're not in Champions League. Oh, it's just like, oh my gosh, leave it alone. He's been good this season. I think you can say he's been good this season. And like, that's fine to say. Just because you think he played well this season doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want him to go. I think we need to upgrade on him. I prefer we keep Granit Xhaka as some sort of rotational person, but we all know that Xhaka doesn't have that type of personality. He's going to want to start 29 next season. Why would he want to sit Arsenal's bench and play behind Thomas and Basuma, that type of thing? But ultimately, I think he's been good, especially in the second half of the season after he got his red card. He's important to our team. You can see that as an issue as well, that we rely so much on him. But I can't lean into the whole narrative that because Xhaka is at Arsenal, that's why everything is horrific and why we're not performing. There's a multitude of reasons why. This season in isolation, I would give him a 7. And I think he's been good, really important, a leader, whatever. But I still think we need to move on from him. So, yep. Sulz, you are shaking your head. You don't agree with me. Go ahead. Say your bit.
I don't rate Xhaka. I don't think he suits a top side personally. I don't think he's got the mobility. His passing's okay-ish. I think some of his decision making could be better. He's had a good season, but I don't think he's. I mean, if people are rating this season, then I think we've got bigger problems than we think. And that's just personally because I don't think, and I know people are going to bring this up as, he's been better than Partey, this and that, but for me, one of the best midfield performances I've seen personally was when it was Partey Elneny versus United at Old Trafford when we beat them 1-0. That's the most solid team performance I've ever seen from. And the thing is, one of the things that we've also been doing is we've lacked that midfield battle. We've never really dominated in the midfield with him or without him. So he is part of that problem. And even if you look at, I know we're rating the player isolation of this season, but I don't think we've been good enough. He's had mistakes in him that have led to goals. A lot of mistakes that have led to goals since he's come. And I don't disagree. It is probably one of his best seasons that he's had at Arsenal. But for me, like you said, it's time to go. It's for me anyway, I just don't think he's good enough for us. If we want to really be a top 4 side, by the way, we are getting Basuma. I think there's so much better out there. He doesn't make it, for me, argue if you want, he doesn't make it into a top 6 midfield. No matter how you look at it, we can have that debate if you want. But he doesn't make it into the top sides for me. And in this season, I'll give him a 6. I think, he's had a solid season. But for me, I'm still not impressed. There's still a lot for him to do to impress me.
Harry?
7.5. I think he's been one of the 3 kind of key best players this year. I think minus the Burnley red card, which was almost like a frustration, from on part of the whole team. He was the one that kind of burst first at home by going up to Westwood, and obviously the mistake when Leno passed him the ball when he gave away the ball at Burnley. Other than that, I think he's been pretty much brilliant this year, led by example, resilience, gets all the abuse in the world, never gives up, never hides, always shows for the ball every single time, always shows for the ball. The hardest thing to do on the football pitch is to constantly show for the ball with your back to play, sideways on. It's the hardest thing to do. Does it repeatedly. I think he's been brilliant this season.
So the hardest thing to do is turn in football.
No, I said one of the hardest things to do is to get your ball back to play constantly, all the time, not knowing sometimes what's behind you with players up your backside, and constantly being the upbeat in the team where everything has to go through you. And we've seen how much we've missed him when he hasn't been available. I mean, we've seen that when we don't have him, we don't tick.
But we've also won a lot of games without him.
No, I'm sure we have, but we've seen that when he's not in the team, we're not ticking. So I just think he's a really good player, which is why I think, he starts every game for us. And I know we haven't made Champions League football since.
He started every single game, and we've been so poor this season. Isn't he part of the reason?
No, I don't think he is, mate. I think the reason why we're 6 points off Champions League football this season is because Aubameyang can't score goals, and Saka hasn't got an end product yet, and Pepe is inconsistent, and Willian has been
all
shit.
three of them,
and we didn't have,
other than Aubameyang, have been better than Xhaka.
We didn't.
Can I say something really quick though? Because I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think the issue is that we look at certain players and we take it personally that they're not the right fit or they're not the right profile. But this is really a squad building issue. Xhaka being in this team is more about the leadership and the executives bringing him in with not looking at his profile, and then once he got here, not putting him next to a box-to-box midfielder. They could have done that 5 years before, and they decided not to do it, and it exposed him. And now we have all this catalog of errors that Xhaka has made. For me, I can't look at the player. I can only look at what my expectations of them are, their limitations, and make a decision on how good I think they are based on that. Xhaka can be the wrong profile and a reason why, like, systematically we're not the right, or we're not a good team, but him personally, what he does on the field, I think it's overstated, like how bad he is and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is a squad building issue. So for me, I can only look at it from an isolated, like, two things can be true, that this is probably his best season, but we need to move on from him. It's not, I think we make it so freaking personal, where when he gets an award, or people say that we can't win without him, it's like, but he's the worst thing ever. Bringing in Xhaka is not Xhaka's problem. It's Arsenal's issue. Does that make sense? So I think the blame needs to go to squad building and the people that brought him in, and did it support him with the right players around him, versus Xhaka. Yeah. I mean, if you get a chance to come to Arsenal, you're going to freaking come. What was he supposed to do? Say, well, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be good enough, and I'm not going to get the right people around him.
I don't hold that against him. I'm just judging him as a player. I just don't think he's good enough. And that's not obviously, if you're going to come to Arsenal, I'm not saying, oh, why did he come to Arsenal? My problem is he's at Arsenal, but I've just not seen enough of him. I just don't think he's good enough for what we want to do moving forward. Like you said, back to goal, there's players out there who can do that and do it very competently. And he's just not that. And that's why I know it's hard to blame him, but apparently we have to judge. It's like Aubameyang doesn't suit the system. Are we now going to give him an 8 because it doesn't suit the system?
No. I'm just saying
it's like we have to
decimates it disintegrates into a personal attack on people. And I'm not necessarily just saying you, but some of the things that I've seen just based on me saying, like, oh, he got the CIES player of the season or in the team of the season, became a personal attack on me, a personal attack on Xhaka. And I just don't really understand that, when he shouldn't have been brought to Arsenal in the first place. He wasn't the right profile. What he's been able to do, for the most part, I don't think Xhaka ever went out there and played half. I don't think he ever played at 50%. I think he gave his most, and sometimes he saw red and made rash decisions. But overall, I just think it's so over the top, the whole. Literally, I've seen people say he's the reason why we're not in Champions League, and that could be no farther away from the truth for me.
I've said so many times that we need to upgrade on Xhaka, or we need to make that central midfield.
You have seen that. You have said that.
I'm not here saying that we don't need better. Of course we do, but I'm saying in terms of what we have and what he gives to us, I think he's been really good this year. And I'm not just gonna, just criticize him because he got sent off once and he made a bad pass against Burnley. Other than that, I think he's been really, really good. And I know we haven't made Champions League football since he arrived, but so what? We made Champions League football with Ozil for 3 years, and then we didn't get it again. Does that mean Ozil was shit? Ozil's a lot of fans' favourite player, but from 2015, 2016 or whatever it was.
Become shit though.
Yeah, I know, but what I'm saying, but Aubameyang's been great. Aubameyang scored lots of goals for us. We haven't got Champions League football. So, I mean, no one's got Champions League football. Every Arsenal player in the past 4 or 5 years hasn't played Champions League football.
Yeah.
Are they all
There's
shit?
A group of players that are synonymous with the decline of Arsenal. There's about 8 or 9 players where their whole time at Arsenal it aligns with the decline. And for me, that's an executive issue. That's an Arsenal squad building issue versus a personal players issue. Some of them became like more problematic towards the end, but Xhaka just gets crapped on so much. And I'm just like, yo, we gotta calm down.
I know he's not mobile. But that's it. He's not mobile. It doesn't mean you can't play central midfield. I'm not comparing him to Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick wasn't mobile. You don't have to be mobile, but what you need is a partner next to you to be mobile. And when we've had Partey next to Xhaka, it's looked decent at times. Sometimes it hasn't, but sometimes it has looked okay. So this season, I feel like he's been one of our better performers. And for context, I'm not going higher than 7.5, and I'm putting him at the top. And I probably would have given him 7, but I saw everyone in the comments saying Xhaka's this, Xhaka's that, so I bumped up 0.5 anyway because that's
just
what
vindictive. I love it. Petty. All right, so let's do Thomas. Okay, so, I mean, this is going to be tough for me because I love him. But man, I mean, based on expectation, what we paid for him, all the injuries, and we've seen glimpses, but not anywhere near the guy that we know and love, or we thought we were going to get. I mean, I don't think I could give him any higher than, it pains me. I don't think I could give him any higher than a 4. I really don't. But I love him, and he's like my favorite player. But my expectations of him are so high. They're so high because we haven't even seen 50% of what the guy can do, and he just hasn't been consistent. He was really consistent under Simeone, been very inconsistent for us. And some of that is injuries, but some of it I just think he's lacked concentration at times. I think he's been at fault for goals at time, and it just hasn't been enough. It just hasn't been enough. So that being said, I expect a much better season for him next season. But man, I got to give him I'll give him a 5 just because I love him, but it's been poor. Sulz, what do you think about Thomas?
Yeah, I don't think he's covered himself in glory this season. That could be partly due to still having a niggly injury just there, something there, because he doesn't seem to have that sort of burst of pace where he gets the ball and just turns and runs. So I do think there's an element of I'm not saying he's injured, but I think there's some discomfort still there. And but yeah, he's not been as impressive all season. He's had, like I said, it's like a Pepe situation where he's had moments he's been good in, and he nearly got that goal against Brighton. How close was that one, man?
That would have been crazy.
But no, I kind of agree. I think a 4, but I do think give him some time, and he'll come good. I do think he is a player that just is his sort of embedding period, but I will give him a 4 overall.
Harry?
Yeah, listen, it's been underwhelming. I think the way we managed him at the start was just really, really poor. We were obviously desperate for him to play, and ever since then, it's just been almost like a ticking time bomb where there's been an injury just in his shadow, and sometimes it's when, and the Spurs game, for example, Spurs away was a time where we rushed him back and it never worked out. So quite poor from our side, but I understand the desperation from Arteta because he needed him in there. But when he has been fit, yeah, it hasn't been great. He's looked slightly better in the more recent games with the pressure's off. Pass completion this season's been 87%, which is still decent, obviously compared to Granit Xhaka, which is 90.4%. Just to get that out there. So obviously just shows you, how hard it is to pass consistently and not give away the ball. So I think, it's been a tough season for Partey. I'm sure he'll come back stronger next year. I do think we've got a world-class central midfielder on our hands. And there has been times when he's glided with the ball past players, little side steps, and played a really good through ball. And I thought, we've missed that for years. Someone in the middle who's got legs, who's got an engine, who's strong, who's demanding. So I really, really hope next season he can come back ready to go.
I do too. And again, these are for this season and this season alone. Like, you can give somebody a low rating based on the reality that they haven't been good and still think that they're going to be good next season. So I'm hoping for that. Starboy, Bukayo Saka. I mean, definitely for me, he's our player of the season. And nobody's really that close. You maybe can say Pepe, but I mean, nobody's really that close. The guy's amazing, played in so many different positions, overplayed for me. But even when he was not great, kind of like Tierney, he was still better than some other people, which says a lot. And for this season and the way that he carried us and played with the heart that he did, and I love the kid. So I'm actually going to give Saka an 8.5 for the season. The only reason why he's not getting higher is because he fell off towards the end. But I love him to bits. Sulz, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's been that revelation. Absolutely, it's been brilliant in every aspect other than finishing. He could have had a lot more goals this season, and I think that's something which, if I was his mate or if I was his advisor or a coach or at Arsenal, I'd be telling him, because everything else about his game, the ability to make different types of crosses, the link-up play, like the 1-2s, he's been good. The only thing for me is when he gets in front of that goal, I don't know whether it's composure. I don't know whether it's because he's very young and he's a bit naive in terms of his sort of decision-making on what he needs to do, or if he's very one-foot dependent. Whatever it may be, he just needs to go in the summer, really work on it, and hopefully he comes back and he can become that sort of true winger. But for me, the way this season has gone, and for him to be carrying us this season from the very beginning, even when we were poor, he's despite the money.
Are you laughing at Yo-Yo?
Yeah, I feel like if you ask Yo-Yo what he wants for dinner, he'll say, "I'd like fish and chips for dinner, but I want Arteta out." I feel like he really doesn't like Arteta.
Everything is tinkered too much, 8, tinker too much, 6. I love it. Consistency.
Yeah. No, I think with Saka, I will give him like an 8.5. I think he's been, for me, it's him and another player we haven't mentioned yet have been the player of the season for me.
Clearly Ceballos. I mean, you're clearly talking about Ceballos there.
Yeah, we spoke about Granit Xhaka already. It's strange.
So, Harry, did you give your rating for Saka?
No, I didn't. I'm gonna say 7.5, really similar to Sulz. Like, just
7.5.
Yeah, 7.5. Yeah, I think so. Only
what
because
did you
of
give
the
Xhaka?
You Xhaka an 8.
7.5. No, I
gave
Xhaka
an 8.
No,
okay, there you go.
No, I think he's up there for one of our best players of the year. But I do struggle to give anyone, this accolade of being the best player of the year or player of the year. I know we have to give one because this season has been quite underwhelming. I think Saka's been brilliant this season, absolutely brilliant. He demands the ball. He gets fouled so much, which shows how good he is. He can play in so many positions. He's so comfortable on the ball, on the right-hand side, from deep with his back to play, turning the left back. I think he's been brilliant. Like Sol said, just needs to brush up on his finishing. So, some real big misses this year, which has been such a shame. But the world is his oyster and he can go so far. And once he adds goals to his game, we're talking like, Harry Kane levels in terms of you have this player in your academy who costs you nothing and you get to enjoy him potentially for years and years and years and years. And that's just a beautiful thing. So, yeah, I'm really excited for his future. Wonderful player, a wonderful human being. Seems like a really humble boy. Seems like he comes from a really good family. So congratulations to him. He deserves all the success. 7.5 out of 10.
All right. Let's talk about probably who you're talking about. So is this who you're talking about?
Yeah, Croydon De Bruyne.
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, no, I think he's been a very, very, very big part of the resurgence. And you know what? Yeah, I'm not defending Arteta this video a lot, and I know I've not mentioned him at all, but this is one thing I will defend him on. You can't play an injured player. He's been injured till December, and December was the earliest he was ever going to play for us. So before people start criticizing Arteta, why didn't he play him earlier? Unless someone is Jesus, right, and he knows how to play an injured player, yeah, please go sign for Arsenal. Because you can't play a player who's picking up injuries. Unless there is a way, please, because even God's asking that question, right? So when he's come in December, that number 10, I don't know whether it's just the fact we needed a number 10, but he's come in, he's been and we know he's been tired and he's been, one of those who he gives it his all. He's very young still, and fitness is the only concern I have for him. Mm-hmm. He's popped up with a few goals. He's getting into good positions. I think his vision and his passing have been really good. To be honest with you, I think it was like Saka. We had good expectations of him, but we had expectations of a youngster, someone who can come and thrive. But I don't think we expected Saka and Smith Rowe to come in and be the driving force to... and then again, the season still hasn't been salvaged, but to make it somewhat decent, not even decent really, but what it is, we would have been probably 14th if it wasn't for them, or maybe even 15th. And for that reason, I'd probably give him similar ratings to... Actually, no, I'm going to give it to Saka because he's played the entire season and he's gave 2 assists to Aubameyang to help us get through to the semi-finals against Benfica. Even at Olympiacos, he was playing good. So I'll give him a 7.5 just because I don't think he's played as much as Saka. And that's the only... But for me, it is still between the two. So it's tough. You can give it to either, man. Croydon De Bruyne, mate. That's all I'm going to say.
I love it. What do you think, Harry? What are you going to give Smith Rowe?
I'm going to say 7.5. He's part of my 3 players of the season, which are Saka, Xhaka, and him. I just think he's been brilliant. I think he came in, gave us a new energy, new legs, just, so brave on the ball, so resilient as well. Like, takes a lot of fouls, but gets up, doesn't mind getting stuck in. For a small player, he's deceptively strong on the ball. I think he'll just grow and grow and grow. And whilst I would love us to get Jack Grealish, I see elements of Emil Smith-Rowe in Jack Grealish. So I'd like to see how far Emil Smith-Rowe can go. 7.5. And another guy who we can look forward to having for 7, 8, 9 seasons potentially, who costs us nothing. So it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, Smith Rowe is the only Chelsea reject I've ever liked at Arsenal. He was in their academy, and I think that's why he always comes and plays with some fire against Chelsea. They can't stand him, and I love it. Kid's so good. I mean, he can play. What I like about him and Saka is I can see them in multiple positions. I can see them playing deeper in midfield, on the left or the right-hand side, up top. Smith Rowe could even probably play false 9, really, once he grows into his body. I think he's still a little bit weak. Needs to get in the gym. That being said, he's so good. I mean, he's athletic, he's tall, he can do all the things, and he's intelligent. And something that we always kind of talk about is the lack of footballing IQ. And we have 2 young players that have that already, and that's something that you can't teach. If you don't have it, you just don't freaking have it. So Smith Rowe to me has been like very, very good. I really like him, so I'm gonna give him an 8. And I think he was better than Odegaard. And I mean, we would rate Odegaard if we had more time, but I think he's been better than him. And Odegaard is supposed to be like, but I think he's given us more, so I'm going to give Smith Rowe an 8. Now, here's where it's going to get more difficult. Let's rate VAR and the referees.
Oh, fuck, sorry.
They've been horrendous this season. VAR is a joke. They need to figure it out. The implementation of it has been very detrimental to the season and has taken the life out of it. How long it takes for them to make decisions is horrendous. And I mean, I know Arsenal fans can look like they have tinfoil hats and we're always looking for a conspiracy, but a lot of these calls do go against us. Like, come on, they do. They go against us. And just even like with David Luiz, I know that those are the rules, but they need to redo the rules. I mean, the limited amount of contact, if David Luiz had tackled the guy, he would have got a yellow. But because he had no chance of getting the ball, he got a red.
But then Zuma done the same on Sterling. Zuma against Chelsea Man City did so much worse on Sterling, and it was nothing. That's the annoying thing.
And I watched the Bundesliga the other day, like the last day of the Bundesliga, and there was a couple of referees that had retired. And the players were like going up to them and asking them for their shirts. And I was like, that would never happen in England. It would never happen in England because there's a constant war between the players, the clubs, the referees, all this kind of stuff. So for me, VAR and the referees have really sucked the soul out of the game. And if they don't fix it, I just foresee it being an even bigger issue. So they get a 0 for me. I think it's just been horrendous. And Sulz, go ahead. What's your rating for VAR/referees?
Thank the Lords, I ain't a manager, so I can't get banned from the stadium, nor given a red card or a match ban. Bun them pagans, wannabe footballers, rejected footballers, shite at their jobs, getting paid loads of money, stealing a living. I don't know how they're not behind bars. You can call it a conspiracy, but I guess the thing is, this is against every single team. It's not just Arsenal. And can anyone? I don't even think the referees can explain the rules anymore. Handball is something one week, and the next week it's a different rule again, and then it's another rule again. Offside is like, well, if your breath is offside, you're offside. It's like, what are you playing at? Like,
the fact that you can tackle somebody, and because the play is over and they were offside, you can tackle somebody and nearly break their leg and almost end their career, and nothing happened to you. I will never forget that Jordan Pickford, just because it was offside, he was allowed to. I mean, Virgil van Dijk, we're assuming that the guy can come back. But when you have an ACL injury, you could come back and you could be completely different. But Sulz, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, the David Luiz situation, David Luiz didn't even touch the player. His foot touched David Luiz. If you actually look at it, he's running, David Luiz is running, and it just happens to touch his knee. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand the rules. I don't get what any of these rules are anymore. And for me, it's like, you know what, man? They bun all these referees. They can all piss right off. I can't even rate them because any rating I give them is a justification to how good they've been. Because even if I give them a -1,000, that's a good rating for them. Like, it's just bun them. I just think scrap it or just bring. I just want foreign referees. Fuck these English ones. The only good one is Mark Clattenburg, and he's gone off to Saudi anyway, so he's not. I don't even consider him an English ref anymore.
So many comments are reminding me of how many poor decisions there's been this year. Like that, even the Elneny one last week, the Chambers one, the Kane handball on the weekend for the Leicester goal. Like, yeah, absolutely madness. It's weird. When VAR was first being discussed, a lot of my friends were like saying, no, don't get it. It's going to ruin the game for the fans. And I was saying, no, you need to get it because, managers are losing their jobs based on poor decisions. So I was like, forget about the fans. But now I'm thinking, well, you take away, the beautiful game, you slow it down, you make it more robotic, but you also don't get the right conclusion. So what is the point? So you've taken away the drama, but to also get it wrong. Take away the drama of the game to get it right, but don't do it to get it wrong. So they've made it less of a spectacle, and they've also managed to F it up even more. It's just been disastrous the whole year. And it's quite simple, actually, because I never thought about it. If I was told, well, not if I was told, if I really understood that referees would also be in the VAR room, it kind of makes sense. But of course it's not going to work because these are the same guys that repeatedly get it wrong on the pitch. So they're going to get it wrong when they slow it down 100 times and make it look worse. So they're going to get it wrong, in a room where they're not attached to the stadium or attached to the emotion of the game. Really, really poor. To be honest with you, I'm inclined to say scrap it because how does it get better? It doesn't get better with the referees being in VAR. Does it get better with ex-pros? No, because it can't be impartial. So maybe just scrap it.
Get a third party. Get a third party that has nothing to do with the game and bring them in.
There's too much agenda. I can't do it. Like, it wasn't, every other league is able to use VAR properly, but the Premier League. Like, I don't see this level. I don't see it. And it's like, even in the MLS, and I hate to, because I know people are like, MLS is not real soccer. I get
what
that.
will solve the issue?
No, go ahead.
Every mistake, regardless of whether it's a genuine mistake or not, they get a fine. That'll sort it all out. Or you put them in front of the fans, center circle, halftime, like
they have to explain.
Yeah, explain every decision you got wrong. Them two things will sort it out. It's because there's no accountability. They don't have to come out afterwards and say, "Oh, this is the reason." If they explain their reason and it makes sense, then fair enough. I can't argue with it. But because they don't have to, they just get away with everything.
And they don't understand clear and obvious. That to me is the one thing that they never take into consideration is that they're constantly re-refereeing the game instead of just, is it clear and obvious? If they just took that into consideration, whatever, because the refs were bad before this. Don't get it twisted. They were making bad decisions before it, but what's making it worse is we're delaying the bad decisions. They're overturning them and doing all this silliness. Clear and obvious. If it's not clear and obvious, then just leave it and let the referees do the job. Because if they're not, a lot of them are deferring to VAR, and I think that's making it even worse. So we'll all give it a 0. It's crap. And last but not least, the coach, the manager, Mikel Arteta. He's been through so much this season. And I can't lie and say that I'm very, very disappointed by where we kind of finished, but not really. But I think just the way the season felt, it didn't feel like we made a lot of progress, and it felt like Arteta made mistakes that were avoidable, and he just kept making them because he's hard-headed. He continued to play Willian. I think that November to December period where he decided to continuously play Willian hurt us a lot. But that being said, I can't ignore that after Boxing Day, we have done better. And if we're going to make it all Arteta's fault when we're not doing well, when we're doing well, we need to give him credit. So it's kind of like that in between, it's so difficult. I like Arteta, but I think next season is really where we'll judge him. But based on this season where we ended, the mistakes that he made, the players that he put a lot of reliance into and overplaying certain players, what he did against Villarreal with Smith Rowe, putting him as a false 9, basically shooting ourselves in the foot for that leg and the leg after that. I'm going to give Arteta a 4 for this season. What do you think, Sulz?
It's tough because obviously both of you know who Kesh is, and me and Kesh have had Albert and like many others. We've had many conversations in regards to Arteta. Obviously, I'm just one of those where I don't think Arteta's had enough. Like he's been backed more than Emery. I do to a degree agree with that, but I still don't think he's had enough backing to really see a system. But if we also look at how many times we've conceded goals in the first 5 to 10 minutes, are we really seeing the system Arteta's putting them out to play in? And then also when you look at the comments of the players, like after the West Ham game, they said in the first half we actually didn't even listen to the instruction that the manager set out. In the second half we did, and 3 goals. So for me it's very difficult because I don't know who to blame. That's the problem, because players have also made mistakes. Arteta's also made mistakes. I think they're both just as accountable as each other. But to be conceding, the thing is, right, conceding in the first sort of 5-10 minutes was under Wenger, under Emery, and now under Arteta. You can call it a coaching issue if it only happened under Arteta, but it was happening under Emery. We started games off very slowly. We were very lethargic. And then even under Wenger, similar things used to happen. But obviously with Wenger, we had a very relentless attack where we attacked and attacked. And eventually most of those games we ended up winning just because we were ruthless in the way we played. Arteta's, I don't know, because you're right when you say since December, obviously when you look at form, we've been one of the best teams in England. We've had one of the best defenses. We've had, we've been creating quite a bit of chances. But it's tough because I think if he gets backed in this window, that will really give us a good indication of actually what he's trying to do. I am seeing a system. As much as people want to say we don't understand what he wants to do, I understand what he wants to do. I just don't think he has the players to do it. And the rating is a tough one because I don't want to be as harsh. And I know I've been harsh on him because I do think he can do it. I actually do. I think Arsenal's the wrong job for him just because he won't get the backing he needs. If he's at a Barcelona, a City, or a club where they actually will sit there and give you the players that you're required to play a system with, he'll actually succeed. And he needs intelligent players, and unfortunately, that's not Arsenal. So I'm going to have to give him a 3 just because bad game management. He could have at least... He should have given himself the best opportunity to win games, and he has bad sort of game management. His setup we haven't ever been able to see. But I think on the way the season's gone, I'll give him a 3, and my verdict's still out on him.
Harry?
Yeah, agree with everything you guys said. Similar to like Aubameyang, external and internal factors, affecting Aubameyang's performance. I think it's the same for Arteta. Lots of external issues, in the footballing, outside of the footballing world, have affected how we operate. Lots of internal issues with players and bad eggs and whatnot have affected how we progress. But ultimately, on the pitch, it hasn't been good enough this year. The 2 legs against Villarreal, just totally unacceptable. He overthought it. He got obsessed with beating Emery rather than beating Villarreal. Really strange lineups, strange substitutions. I got it terribly wrong. But like you say, since December, things have improved drastically in the league. Once we got a number 10, there's not many clubs competing for top 4 who only have 1 left back. There's not many clubs competing for top 4 who don't have a number 10 until January. Those things are pretty unheard of. And unfortunately at Arsenal, there's some of the problems that Arteta's had to encounter. I'm going to say 5 out of 10. But, my lowest rating for everyone has been 5 out of 10 this year. So, that's pretty low. But for what it's worth, I do think he will go on to be one of our most successful managers if he is backed.
Can I also just say, right, like I think an element of it is for me, right, I'm not gonna lie, he's doing all the right things in not on the pitch, but off the pitch, in terms of we wanted a manager to come in and get rid of all these deadwood players, and it's kind of however you do it. And he's come in. Obviously, I know it's an Edu thing and I know it's a board thing, but he's also has to agree and sign off on he doesn't need the players anymore. So he's obviously having to kind of give that thing away. Obviously, you can't blame, because obviously Kolasinac went out on loan and they had 30 days to get a backup in. They could have got Van Aanholt in for a 6-month loan and then signed him on a free. They could have potentially got Ryan Bertrand in. Again on a loan, and then obviously signed him permanently at the end of the window. And things like that, I can't blame him for, because he's had to play without Tierney for a lot of the season. He's had to play without
Thomas.
Partey for a lot of the season. Gabriel was out with COVID. David Luiz obviously he had COVID and then he got injured later on. The blessing was Willian getting COVID. It's not a blessing he got COVID, but it was a blessing for Arsenal, because it meant, Martinelli came back in, the likes of Smith Rowe came back in. But I do think, if we look at it, has he showed us anything? That's the way I look at a manager. And I think since December, it's somewhat improved. And I'm willing to give him the start of the season. But I think if he's backed and he does crap, he's out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally agree with that.
All right, you guys, we're going to leave it there. I know it was a long one, but we had a ton of players to go through and a lot of conversations to have. I really thought we'd go through them so much quicker, but every player, you could have probably given them different ratings depending on how you feel about them. If you guys are interested in Premier League news, I'm going to be doing a show right after this about Konate, Harry Kane, and Declan Rice. So come right back, and I'll be here and we'll talk about those things. Sulz and Harry, I want to thank you guys for being here. I know it was a long one, but you guys, as usual, did such a good job. So you guys can find Sulz at Let's Debate Footy on Twitter. And you can find DJ Harry at It's DJ Harry. And we'll see you guys in the next one. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, and talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.